Hello, welcome to this webinar on job and automation monitoring with SAP Cloud ALM. You see my screen. The presentation I put together is basically from yesterday, partially from today. So this is really what customers can currently see and use in SAP Cloud ALM. I will guide you through the presentation, which is basically a collection of a little bit of background, a little bit of screenshot collection, just to give a good solid guidance, and then there will be a demo. I'm not fully sure how long it will take, but I will try to be quick so that we have time maybe for discussion later on. So let me start. What is the motivation of SAP Cloud ALM? Actually, it is very similar to the motivation that was, let's say, the reason to bring up a solution manager. But also in the future, we foresee a distributed landscape, a heterogeneous landscape, maybe even more than in the past on-premise world, pure on-premise world, because now we will have different cloud services communicating with on-premise systems. Job execution is maybe slightly different to the past, so that, let's say, in the past, job execution was very much bound to mass data processing. Now it is rather, I would say, the basis for the overall communication of the systems. So a lot of jobs are running in the individual systems to kind of emulate or simulate a kind of event-based processing of the data. So whenever there's some data, the job will pick it up and process it and make it available for the consumer of the data. So therefore, let's say the fact that the jobs are running within an expected recurrence, running successfully, process the data successfully, but also do not deteriorate in their runtime is still an important task also in the cloud world. And the big challenge is, let's see, how to do this efficiently, how to make sure that these things will happen automatically, will be made sure. So for this, job monitoring or job and automation monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM has been introduced. And it is, following the following principle. We are trying to collect all job executions from the different cloud services. This is a little bit subject to the service type. So for the ABAP-based service types, we are really collecting it all. For other service types like SAP Build Process Automation or SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation, the transfer, which jobs are monitored can be decided by the customer. So this is then a subset. But in both cases, what we try to do is we are not offering a collection of, let's say, executions, but we are grouping the individual executions below the jobs that are executed, so that also less frequently running jobs are becoming visible, and one has a complete list of jobs, and for every job understands if it is running successfully or not. So this kind of aggregation is the basic concept. On this screen, it is basically listed what we currently support for different job types, including the on-premise world with ABAP jobs and BW process chains. And this is also very important because SAP Cloud ALM will replace solution managers. So for most solution manager customers, it will become interesting to, let's say, use job and automation monitoring SAP Cloud ALM, especially since, let's say, new job types will be covered by Cloud ALM. With these job types, which we want to extend already now, a big portion of SAP's product portfolio can be covered from job monitoring perspective. What is that needs to be done to get the data fed into the SAP Cloud ALM tenant? One has to apply for a tenant, clear. One has to do some basic registration things, need to onboard users. But basically, once this is done, he can, let's say, access the managed services and then start to push data. And this is documented in Expert Portal, and just a few examples are listed here. So this is a screenshot from Intelligent Robotic Process Automation. There is a configuration section where the user can maintain URL to the tenant and credentials, and then select the automations that shall be transferred. This is a screenshot from a cloud S/4HANA system where the communication is via communication arrangement. The communication arrangement is 0527. And in here, the user has to select the use cases for which he wants to transfer the data and save. And the third example, this is on-premise. There is a utility report called SDF ALM Setup, where the user has to maintain information that he has received from SAP, save and register, and then activate the use cases to be collected. And the result is a kind of ongoing background processing data collector that is fetching data. The load that these jobs are putting on the system is really minimal. Also in bigger customer systems, we see only a few seconds of runtime, true on a regular basis every 5 minutes. Okay, now let's go through the application. In the meanwhile, I would say we are quite mature regarding the general functionality. Of course, there are many small details that we want to improve. And for this, actually, I was hoping to get a couple of customers in this call and make sure that they are using the application, make sure they let's say, provide feedback so that we move to the right direction. The application contains several views, an overview section, a so-called monitor, an exception section, analysis, and then alerting. And the different views are partially integrated with each other. So from the overview, navigation is possible to the monitoring as well as to the alert list. And by default, in the overview, for every service in scope, a card is represented, is painted, and the card contains the job types that are being collected, the total number of jobs that are being collected, and then if there are any jobs with technical exceptions, application exceptions, high runtime. And if there are, the card is rated red. And in any case, forward navigation to the application is possible either by clicking on the header of the card or by clicking on the individual numbers. So this is complemented by a so-called favorites option. Favorites option is putting the user into the position to focus on favorite jobs. So he can, in the monitoring application, apply filters and sortings. In this example, for sorted by execution status, filter is SAP underscore fin jobs, or SAP underscore jobs. And so basically, the list of jobs is here filtered to SAP jobs and sorted by execution status. And if then somebody clicks on the star here, then a card is created, which can be renamed. And then on the overview page, one has a quick view into the current situation. So the SAP fin jobs are all good, but there are some SAP jobs that seem to, or one SAP job that has an issue, at least with the execution status. The monitoring application can also be used independently. For the scope, for the services in scope, all the individual job definitions are listed. Below, there are on the next level, there are the executions, and every definition is rated by the latest execution. We are thinking about extending this to consider rather the executions in the time frame. So several executions, not only the latest at the moment, it's the latest execution. So here it can be seen that about 20 jobs, or 15 or 10, I don't know, jobs have an issue, so they are failing. Okay. What is the navigation pattern within the application? So from the list of jobs, one can navigate into the list of executions for a job. Here we are keeping the last 14 executions, but at least the executions of the last day, and show for every execution the execution status, application status, if there has been a start delay or runtime. And from here, we offer a generic forward navigation via the information icon, clicking on the run ID to the managed service. In this example, it's an ABAP system, but the navigation also works for other system types. I will demo this later. New since a couple of months is this exception monitoring view. It's integrated with job monitoring in the sense that if for ABAP jobs and for intelligent robotic process automation jobs, we are collecting exceptions. And if there are exceptions related to a job execution, then this is indicated by a slightly changed icon. And on clicking on the icon, one can directly navigate to the exception details at job execution. For an ABAP job, this is the job log, or it is the application log. From the monitoring view, one can also directly navigate to the alert. So if there's an alert set up for a job or an alert created for a job, then this is indicated with a number, and on clicking on the number, one gets navigated to the alert itself and can check then the details. And from the alert, also direct navigation to the managed services provided, like from the monitoring application. The exception view can be used independently as well. So if somebody just clicks here, then he gets an entry point with really nice graphical, historical information, details. So this can completely be used standalone. At the moment, it will show all kinds of exceptions collected by any SAP Cloud ALM application. So more than not only the job-related exceptions, here there is the plan to narrow this down so that really it is focusing on exceptions in the context of job execution. The next view is the so-called analysis view. Here, for the services in scope, we list all jobs. The data is aggregated data, and we count for every job the number of executions, the failed executions, or the let's say, aborting executions, those with application issues. We count the total runtime and the average runtime and present this in a table, offering on top information if there is a degradation or an improvement. So if it's a degradation, we paint a red arrow up. If it's an improvement, a green arrow down. And then this is basically the typical candidate to check, oh, there is something which is not so good. And by clicking on the right side, one can go into the trend reporting for the job. So here, over the time of the selected time frame, we show the number of executions, executions by rating, and so on. Okay, so all this, what I had shown, is more or less, let's say, just by connecting a managed service to SAP Cloud ALM, except for the alerting. For the alerting, configuration is obviously needed, and this can be done via the configuration pane by accessing the service, and for the service, creating events. This is one example for such an event of the type critical application status. And if somebody does so, then basically for the given service, all jobs will be monitored for the corresponding alert type. There's no need to specify any job name because all jobs that have an issue will automatically create an individual alert and having the job name in the object details. And in the list of alerts, filtering is then also possible for the job name, but also for the alert name. Now, if somebody wants to focus on specific jobs, then obviously he can do some filtering in alert configuration. For example, here, just to restrict the alert to a job that contains data integration. And if somebody is doing so, of course, it makes sense to adjust the alert name accordingly to make sure that here it's not all kind of jobs that are having an issue, but only specific jobs. This is not yet enough to get an alert. It's important to scroll down to the event action section and in there switch on create alert. And if a notification shall be sent out on top, activate send email to and maintain a notification recipient one or more. Prerequisite for the recipient to be offered is a registration in the notification management. And this is the mail, how it is at the moment looking like. It's not containing too much information. Here feedback would be very welcome, but let's say sufficient information to understand which job has an issue, when the issue occurred, and we offer a direct navigation to the alert in Cloud ALM. So for more information, somebody just needs to click on this link and then gets more information. Of course, with an outbound integration, this is not a perfect solution. So here we will, in the near future, add additional information that can be handed over to an external ticketing system. Okay, I come to the demo. What I have done is I have launched in SAP Cloud ALM for Operations Job and Automation Monitoring. And I'm looking at the application for 3 services in scope. Actually, it's one system, one S/4HANA system, on-premise system, QM7. And since the connection has to be done per client, the data collection is happening per client, the registration is then also, let's say, per client. So if I monitor 2 clients in the same system, here in this example, client 2 and client 470, then this is the result. On top, I have included in the scope an S/4HANA, kind of S/4HANA cloud system. It's integrated business planning. Strictly speaking, it's not an S/4HANA system, but technology-wise, it's the same thing. So there, ABAP jobs are managed by the service provider, which is SAP. But there are application jobs for customers to do some application-specific automations. So in this case, we are not exposing the basis jobs, but we show the application jobs only. Okay, so this is the overview. By default, what I had done, I had created 2 favorites, and let me show the navigation. So if I want to focus on the jobs for PT6, I click on PT6 tile, and then I have automatically applied the filter on PT6 and get the individual jobs listed and sorted by default by execution status. Have the option to apply filters and do change to the sorting. I can also directly navigate from within the card. By, for example, clicking here on the 6, then I'm going to restrict the view on those that have currently an execution issue. In case of the favorites, I see the top 3 jobs. Basically, if there is an issue with a job, then it will appear here on the list. Currently, there is no issue, so I can basically, I don't need to navigate. There is, at least with the execution status, there is no issue. That's fine, but there has been an issue. Yeah, we can see it here. There's an open alert. Yeah, for the jobs that it had in scope, there's an open alert. In fact, I had seen it here on the top of the list, but it's not necessarily always on the top of the list. So, sorry, I'm clicking, I think I click wrong. So I can click here on open alerts and then navigate to the alert related to the favorite jobs. Okay, let me go to the monitoring application. This is a view that typically is not needed because the favorite cards provide this information already. So let me deep dive into the job list that I was already speaking about. So in here, we have now again an issue with the job, with this job here. I can see that it's a constant issue. I can do a forward navigation to the executing system and see, oh, okay, indeed, cancelled. I can see here the job log. User logon failed when starting the steps. So this is really critical. Since recently we are collecting such exceptions also into SAP Cloud ALM. So alternatively, I can click here. And then I'm navigated to the collected exception details and see exactly the message as well that has been collected. So both ways are possible. Meanwhile, one does not need to leave the monitoring application, but since we are not collecting exceptions for all jobs and automations, it definitely makes sense to, in some cases, to use it. For example, for the SAP Integrated Business Planning, we are having here also an aborted job. Okay, it's indicating here, that the icon is different, slightly different. So there is no forward navigation on this icon. So in this case, to understand what is the issue, I better click on the run ID, navigate to the cloud system. And in the cloud system, I get more information. So here, job failed. And I can then in the cloud system understand what is the reason. Okay, to be honest, not too much of information, but at least I know on which component I shall open the message. Okay, so far to the monitoring application. Oh, what I forgot to mention. Okay, I have no alerts. Sorry for this. I have no alerts, but the forward navigation I wanted to show. So if a job has an alert, I can click on the alert icon and then I'm navigated to the alert view. Okay, now let's go back to the exceptions view. As already said, all kind of exceptions are collected at the moment, also those that are not related to job execution. This will change. And there will be a configuration option, which exceptions you want to see. So really interesting at the moment, the ABAP application log and the aborted jobs. And yeah, one can use this application standalone, have nice graphs and understand, basically what's going wrong. Let's go then to analysis. This is the table, which is listing all the jobs with the different different aspects. And in order to configure here the data retention, one can go to application settings. By default, the data is kept for 1 year. And then, so I can go back further than a year, but the data will be cleaned out. And I see here also when the last aggregation job was running. So at 2:11, we have roughly every hour, we do an aggregation. So the data that we see here has a certain latency, but for sure trends should be understandable. Okay, I see here there's an issue with housekeeping. Oh, okay. Maybe need to look into this. And what I see here is the services in scope and the data collection status. I have the option to switch off data collection from here. So once I have enabled it in the managed service, I can switch it on and off here if I want to pause data collection. Important, if I pause the data collection, then after 30 days, we will completely remove the service from Cloud ALM, assuming that this is not anymore needed. Okay, I can at the moment, unfortunately, not show the trend graphs. Yesterday it was still working. Today there is a flaw. Sorry about this, will be fixed. This is a little bit a pain. Okay, good. And last but not least, let me show the alert list. So here I have the alerts. One has a yellow status. I can filter here for the alert name, which I can change as a user. I can use the object details to search for specific jobs. For example, I'm interested only in SAP underscore jobs. Then I can filter this. Oh, no data, sorry, without star. And then, sorry, SAP is not a good filter because it's also in the job type. Okay. Second, what's wrong here? Okay, not sure. Let's use workflow. Object details, apply. Okay. Good. Last remark here, manage component status. You see here green indicator. We have it in the alert inbox. We have it also on the cards. It is basically indicating you if the service that you have in scope is currently in normal operation or if it's currently in a planned downtime. If it's in a planned downtime, then obviously there is no reason really to worry too much about the jobs, but not if it's green. Important, during a planned downtime, we are also not raising alerts. So there will be no email notifications sent out. Okay, let's just quickly show how to create a favorite. So let's assume I'm interested in ESH jobs. Okay, there's just one. Then I could say, okay, this is my favorite. And by doing so, I have created here a card. And now I should give it a speaking name. Otherwise, I will not remember why I did it. So EAS jobs. Maybe I add also the service QM7 or 70, I think it was. If I'm not mistaken, right? So, and then I understand, okay, so this is these specific jobs I'm looking at here. Okay, and regarding configuration, alert configuration, let me show this on an example. So I can navigate into the service for which I want to create an alert, an event. Need to click one more time. And here there's already one alert created, critical application status for data integration job. And if I'm interested, let's say, in other jobs as well, what I could maybe do is, let's say, it's not so critical execution status for job other than data integration detected. So by doing so, I have to be careful. This is not yet creating any alert. That is important. I need to take care to switch on create alert. And if I want to get notified on top, then I need to say send email to. Select the recipient and save. Okay. So I could also trigger a ticket. I think it's ServiceNow, start an operation flow. So this is supported by this application. Okay. Let me cancel out of here and delete this again. And close. Okay. So I return to my presentation, come to an end quickly, just to summarize. So what did we do? I come back to this one. So you hopefully know how, let's say, to use the application now, to look at the performance of jobs, availability of automations, what is the generic concept of job and automation monitoring, how to use it, how to use analysis, how exception monitoring is integrated, how to configure alerts and notifications, and yeah, little outlook in 2023. So this year, quite soon, we will offer SAP Cloud ALM Analytics API with job monitoring data. Then somebody can also, let's say, create a common dashboard, for example, with Grafana. The integration with exception management will be improved, so we will not show all kinds of exceptions, and also alerting on individual exceptions will be possible. We think about improving alerting so that, especially for the runtime and delay, somebody can work without fixed thresholds. We will offer monitoring for business workflow for S/4HANA Cloud on-premise and Cloud and on-premise, so ABAP workflow. But soon also, and I didn't mention it here, that's surprising, for the SAP BW Process automation, which is also containing a workflow, cloud workflow. And hopefully BTP applications, monitoring of jobs for BTP applications. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to show today.